Chinese people are lounging around in IKEA, sleeping under blankets and even snoring. Chinese man causes a scene at Yasukuni shrine, insults Japanese people. Scorpion emerges from Mangosteen. 72-year-old woman stung and poisoned. A 70 billion yuan investment group collapses. Its chairman flees to the US. Government hires middle school students to pose as police and beat farmers. China's outrageous new marriage policy has left many speechless. During the hot summer days, IKEA in China has become a gathering spot for the so-called lying flat tribe. Many people bring their families to take over the store's sofas and beds, kicking off their shoes and falling asleep right there. This scene has left bystanders feeling awkward. Videos circulating online show the store's bed and sofa sections packed with people, both adults and children alike, treating the place like their own home. Some even take it further by kicking off their shoes and covering themselves with blankets in the air-conditioned space. The over-the-top behavior has left people in shock. Inside the store, chaos ensues. The sound of announcements, crying children, and complaining customers blends together. Despite the store's repeated broadcasts asking people to stop, these loiterers continue to occupy the furniture, staying cool and undisturbed. One woman openly admitted that the beds in the store are just too comfortable. She mentioned that her good friends also enjoy coming over to sleep and claimed it doesn't cause any big impact. Originally, the shopping environment was meant to be pleasant and cozy. However, when some customers genuinely want to select products, they are instead driven away by people occupying the furniture. One mother, irritated by the noise disturbing her sleeping child, even responded impatiently, "Can you leave? The child is sleeping." According to a report from China Youth Network, this behavior has happened multiple times in IKEA. As a result, since April 7th of this year, the store has prohibited customers from sleeping on sample furniture. Yet, on the first day of the May 1st holiday, many customers in IKEA's Nanjing store were still laying down and sleeping on the sofas and beds. While staff or security tried to persuade them to stop, many customers ignored the warnings. And even when one person was persuaded to leave, another would take their place. Staff complained that they really can't control it. Some employees also revealed that they had to rearrange the beds after the customers lay on them, which significantly increased their workload. Many netizens were shocked after watching the scene. Some criticized the lack of public courtesy, pointing out that the behavior shows poor manners. Others expressed concerns about the cleanliness of the store and questioned how people could sleep directly on the furniture. A few netizens joked that if the air conditioning was turned off, everyone would immediately get up and leave. The behavior of Chinese people in public places has often been criticized for lacking consideration. Recently, a man was caught lying on the floor of a supermarket with his feet resting on a refrigeration unit. He was cooling off and looked very relaxed. However, the surrounding customers found the scene hard to accept. In another incident, things escalated to physical violence. A 39-year-old male passenger surnamed Lu missed his flight at Shanghai Pudong Airport. In his frustration, he lost control at the airline counter and assaulted the staff. Footage circulating online shows Lu sitting on the luggage conveyor belt at the counter, waving his arms and causing a commotion. He shoved staff members who tried to intervene. He even grabbed items from the counter to throw at the ground crew and forcibly snatched a pair of glasses from another staff member. Eventually, airport personnel called the police, and Lu was taken away. According to a police report, Lu was arrested for assaulting airport staff and has been placed in administrative detention as per the law. On August 15th, a Chinese man protested in front of Japanese Yasukuni shrine, holding a speaker and banner. In the video, the man can be heard shouting, "Do you think Chinese people are afraid of you? Do you think Chinese people are afraid of you? You have no guts. You don't have the courage that Chinese people have. Stop acting tough at home. If you don't have courage, then don't act tough. You Japanese are nothing. Do you understand?" In response, some netizens believe that this kind of behavior does nothing to resolve historical issues and only exposes a self-contradictory stance. While remaining silent in the face of Chinese authoritarianism, these people suddenly become brave in a foreign country. True courage might be the ability to speak out and question one's own issues, rather than putting on an absurd display of patriotism in another country. Some overseas netizens also remarked, Chinese people have never lacked the courage to express barbaric behavior. Due to the Chinese government's propaganda and disinformation, many Chinese people have long held strong anti-Japanese sentiments. This is particularly evident when it comes to Japanese athletes of Chinese descent. For example, Chinese netizens on Weibo once attacked table tennis player Tomozaku Harimoto when he visited Togo Shrine. The Togo Shrine is a memorial dedicated to Marshal Admiral Togo Heihachiro, who participated in battles such as the First Sino-Japanese War. Additionally, after the announcement in 2023 that wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant would be discharged, many people from mainland China began making harassing international calls to Japanese organizations. Among them were 16-year-olds and unemployed 23-year-olds. In one video, a Chinese influencer can be seen visiting an izakaya restaurant in Tokyo's Shinjuku district. He pointed angrily at a sign in front of the restaurant that read, "Notice to Chinese people, all ingredients in this establishment are from Fukushima Prefecture," and declared, "This is discrimination." The influencer later called the police. When the police addressed the matter, he didn't forget to add, "When we feel uncomfortable, we must stand up and fight back." Earlier, former Chinese journalist Zhao Lanjian shared in an interview with Voice of America that he had discovered a large number of anti-Japanese videos on the Chinese internet. These videos were primarily produced by young people, some of whom even showed their real names and faces while shouting extreme slogans such as "Eliminate traitors." These young individuals, who brand themselves as members of the Traitor Elimination Squad, have their own QQ and WeChat groups, each containing anywhere from several thousand to over 10,000 members. It's even believed that their actions are not only organized, but also receive tacit approval from the authorities. Even if they don't have explicit government support, they at least enjoy the leniency of Chinese internet regulators. After all, China is a society where even holding up a blank sheet of paper can lead to arrest. Ironically, in 2019, Chinese leader Xi Jinping publicly stated that China does not spread hatred towards Japan, but instead encourages people to travel there. He even turned the criticism back on Japan, urging it to correct its prejudices and biased perceptions towards China. A 72-year-old woman from Shenzhen, Guangdong, was recently poisoned and rushed to the hospital after being stung by a scorpion that emerged from a mangosteen fruit. According to the woman's son, Mr. Li, on the morning of August 2nd, his mother had purchased 4 types of fruit: durian, cherries, cantaloupe, and mangosteen from the Baiguoyuan Zhonglian Yunjin store in Shenzhen's Guangming district, spending a total of nearly 300 yuan, with the mangosteen costing 44.8 yuan, approximately $6.20 US. After returning home, while eating the mangosteen, halfway through, a scorpion suddenly crawled out from inside the fruit and stung her right-hand finger. Her family quickly killed the scorpion and took photos for evidence. They then rushed to Shenzhen Baotian Hospital, where she received pain relief and an antidote. Mr. Li explained that after returning home, although the pain had subsided somewhat, his mother began experiencing chest pain on the left side around 7 p.m. the following day. Since she had previously been diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a full mastectomy on her left side in 2018, Mr. Li was concerned that the scorpion venom might affect her health. On the evening of August 3rd, he took his mother to the University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital for further evaluation. On August 8th, of the market where she bought the fruit, informed Mr. Li that the headquarters had provided a final resolution, compensation in the form of a 500 yuan store credit. Mr. Li was dissatisfied with this offer, stating, "This is not a small matter. How can they handle it so dismissively?" Following this, Mr. Li called the operations manager again and requested 50,000 yuan in cash compensation, but the call was abruptly disconnected. Mr. Li mentioned that he had contacted Baiguoyuan's headquarters several times to report the situation. Despite multiple communications, the response he received was that a specialist was handling the case, but no solution had been provided yet. Food safety issues in China have long been notorious and are a frequent topic of discussion. Recently, a netizen posted that while eating a duck noodle dish at a restaurant in Suzhou, they encountered a foreign object, suspecting it to be a decaying rat. According to reports from Chinese media, the person involved, Mr. Wu, stated that on the 11th, he ordered a serving of duck noodles at a local restaurant. He paid 166 yuan, approximately 23 US dollars. About a third of the way through his meal, he bit into a foreign object. When he bit down, black liquid oozed out, accompanied by a strong, foul odor. Mr. Wu spat out the object and saw some debris, with part of the napkin also stained black. The sight made him vomit multiple times. Mr. Wu mentioned that since no formal lab test had been conducted, he could not definitively identify what the foreign object was. However, he demanded that the restaurant release its surveillance footage and conduct a thorough investigation into its food safety practices, including testing the object. He firmly stated, if the restaurant needs to be shut down, then shut it down. In response to the incident, the restaurant involved explained that the table where Mr. Wu was seated was in a blind spot of the surveillance cameras, with his back facing the camera, so they were unable to provide any footage. They also insisted that there were no issues in their food preparation process. Following this, the Suzhou Gusu District Market Supervision and Administration Bureau responded, stating that they were conducting an investigation according to procedures. The noodle house has since suspended its operations. In a similar case, a woman purchased jelly from a Sam's Club store and was shocked to find insects inside when she opened it. In the video, she says, "When I tore open the jelly, the opening was quite large, and I saw a bit sticking out. I pulled it all out and couldn't believe there were insects inside. It was disgusting. To verify, I opened the remaining jelly packs, and in one, I found 3 insects. Later, I checked online comments and discovered that many netizens had mentioned finding bugs in this brand of jelly. Clearly, this isn't an isolated incident." A 70 billion yuan investment group collapses. Its chairman flees to the US. Recently, multiple investment groups in China have collapsed, resulting in the loss of billions of yuan in investor funds. On August 15th, reports surfaced that investors from Shandong's Jiang Haihui Group gathered to demand justice, even kneeling and bowing before police officers who were there to maintain order. The protest stemmed from the collapse of Jiang Haihui's financial products, which left investors unable to recover their funds. The group's chairman, An Shicheng, is suspected of fleeing to the US with 20 billion yuan, about 2.76 billion US dollars. According to an insider, one woman invested 8 million yuan, about 1.1 million US dollars, including 3.5 million yuan in loans. She now feels like she can't continue living, as she can no longer afford the interest payments. An elderly man in his 80s, leaning on a cane outside Jiang Haihui's offices, lamented that by the time he passes away, the money may still not be recovered. There was also a couple who, after saving little by little for 10 years, had only accumulated over 100,000 yuan, which is now lost. There are rumors that Jiang Haihui Group was backed by the Chinese government. However, after the collapse, the government has made no official response. On August 13th, investors of another investment group, Haiyin Wealth, also gathered in protest, shouting Haiyin fraud and urging the police to investigate. Reportedly, Haiyin Wealth collapsed 8 months ago, leading to a financial disaster with losses amounting to 70 billion yuan, approximately 9.7 billion US dollars. The police, who arrived at the scene, resorted to violent methods to maintain control. Some investors were forcibly loaded onto buses and taken to the Fengshan District Petition Reception Center. Others had their vehicles stopped at highway exits. There were reports of women being shoved by large men, falling down steps, and elderly people's clothes being torn to shreds. Among those protesting, the oldest was 85 years old and the youngest was 8. Some of them held newspapers and knelt down, pleading for help. According to investors, on December 14, 2023, Haiyin Wealth abruptly and unilaterally announced that they would stop cash payments against vouchers, despite previously assuring that they would still protect consumer interests. After the Chinese New Year, Haiyin Wealth, through local financial advisors, promised customers that a third-party audit would be completed and a preliminary payment plan would be presented around April 15th. However, to this day, investors have seen no such plan. Investors have reported that over the past 8 months, victims from various regions have traveled to Shanghai multiple times to seek information and express their demands. Yet they have received no meaningful information from any relevant departments. Some victims approached the Shanghai Municipal Financial Regulatory Bureau to report the issue, only to be told that Haiyin Wealth was not licensed and did not fall within their regulatory scope, so their complaints would not be handled. It has been revealed that Haiyin Wealth lowered its investment threshold to 300,000 yuan, about 42,000 US dollars, drawing in many people who invested their entire life savings. Some invested their retirement funds, others their medical expenses, and many young families even put in their children's education funds. In essence, Haiyin did not only target the middle class, but also the poorest in China. On August 13th, in Chengdu's Jingjiang district, investors of Zhongming Group were suppressed by the police during a protest, and many were arrested. Previously, investors had staged multiple protests due to Zhongming's failure to redeem several overdue financial products. Government hires middle school students to pose as police and beat farmers. Recent news reports indicate an increasingly hostile relationship between the Chinese Communist regime and the Chinese public. It appears that authorities are now openly hiring middle school students to pose as police officers and assault farmers. Footage from the scene shows a group of teenagers dressed in police uniforms and wearing face masks to conceal their identities, participating in a forced demolition of Huzhuang Village, Xicheng District, Luohe City. Some of the students appeared confused but also excited. Later videos show villagers clashing with the demolition crew, with several villagers injured. The students posing as police officers were also involved in the conflict. Opposite the demolition site, a large crowd of villagers gathered, along with a significant number of people dressed in police uniforms, included the suspected student police. At one point, a man in white was forcibly dragged away by uniformed personnel, while many in the crowd shouted, "They're hitting people!" The situation became chaotic. Local villagers revealed that there were hundreds of students posing as police officers, and due to a lack of food and water on site, many of them were so exhausted by the afternoon that they laid on the ground but did not dare to return to school. When questioned by villagers, the students disclosed that their leader was the son of the principal of Xiangqiao Martial Arts School in Lingying County, Henan. Their daily wage was less than 100 yuan, about $14. On Western social media, many netizens harshly criticized the local authorities and the martial arts school involved. Comments included, "For just 100 yuan, you can bribe students to act as accomplices in wrongdoing? Are there no auxiliary police left? Are these kids being used as cattle?" Others suggested that hiring social workers is expensive, so authorities use student slaves for maintaining order at a cheaper cost. Additionally, the fact that so many students were brazenly wearing police uniforms to enforce stability clearly indicated the support of the local government. A similar case occurred in Yunnan last September, which was widely condemned as absurd by the public. On September 30th, 2023, a video circulated online allegedly showing the closing ceremony of military training at Chusheng Normal University in Yunnan. The content of the event shocked many, as it depicted a drill simulating Chinese paramilitary police forcefully suppressing migrant workers protesting for unpaid wages. The video shows students acting as migrant workers holding signs that read "Pay back the debt" while chanting slogans like "Pay us" as they entered the scene. Meanwhile, other students dressed as paramilitary police stood in formation with shields and weapons, with some waving red flags. The performance escalated into a violent clash between those playing the migrant workers and those in the role of paramilitary police. The scene was filled with shouting, while mock smoke bombs and tear gas were thrown around. Eventually, those playing the police encircled and subdued the workers, violently controlling them and escorting them off the field one by one. This incident sparked significant attention and criticism. Some commentators expressed concern, stating that instilling a mentality of oppressing the people starting in college is another form of brainwashing. The message is being sent that any form of resistance is wrong and must be suppressed. Ultimately, the lesson is clear: no one is allowed to resist. China's outrageous new marriage policy has left many speechless. The Chinese Communist Party is planning to revise the marriage registration regulations, simplifying the process of getting married while making divorce more difficult. However, critics are concerned that this move could exacerbate issues such as human trafficking and domestic violence. According to a report from CCTV on August 15th, the Ministry of Civil Affairs released a draft of the marriage registration regulations. The draft eliminates the previous legal requirement that marriages be registered in the couple's place of household registration. Additionally, the draft includes a 30-day cooling-off period for divorces. During this period, if either party wishes to cancel the divorce, they can withdraw the application, effectively halting the divorce process. This draft comes at a time when China's population has been declining for several consecutive years, and authorities are trying various ways to encourage young couples to marry and have children. However, some netizens argue that this policy, while appearing to encourage marriage and childbirth, might actually discourage people from marrying altogether, as it seems like an attempt to trap people rather than offering real solutions. However, observers have pointed out that this move by the authorities carries significant hidden risks. One major concern is domestic violence. Some commentators believe that the cooling off period for divorces must include an additional clause. If either party experiences domestic violence during this period, the cooling off period should be immediately canceled, and the divorce should proceed without delay. In such cases, the victim should be allowed to unilaterally divorce without needing the consent of the other party. When someone's life, safety, and freedom are harmed by domestic violence, why should mutual consent be required for a divorce? Must the victim actually die before the divorce is approved? If that's the case, the cooling off period is effectively protecting the abuser. While the divorce rate may drop, the death rate would rise as a result. Additionally, many are concerned that the proposal could lead to an increase in issues like human trafficking, forced marriages, and even bigamy. For example, trafficked women would be registered for marriage without needing household registration documents. Even if law enforcement catches the perpetrators, it may be difficult to impose significant penalties, since the women are legally married to their captors. These criminals would receive lenient treatment under the law, despite the fact that the women were trafficked. The legal status of marriage could provide the perpetrators with undue protections and lighter punishments. On August 2nd, China's Ministry of Civil Affairs released the 2024 Q2 civil affairs statistics, which seem to echo the concerns raised by netizens. The data showed that during the first half of this year, 3.43 million couples registered for marriage nationwide, a decrease of nearly 500,000 compared to the same period last year, representing a drop of 12.7%. Compared to the nearly 2 million couples in the first quarter, the decline reached 25.8%. This figure sets a new low, even lower than the 3.7 million couples in the first half of 2022. Since 2019, the number of marriages in China has been below 10 million for 5 consecutive years.